Three, two, one. Welcome back to another AT Talks. Not a topic we voted on, or I don't know. It's kind of a specialty topic where we're just talking about what's going on in the world. The world of sports and athletic training is on fire right now. So I brought on. We got Dan, we got Brit, and we got Eli. If you could just quickly introduce yourself, I would appreciate it.
My name is Brittany Backhoffen. I'm the athletic trainer at Chaparral High School in Las Vegas, Nevada, secretary for the Nevada Athletic Trainers Association, and the Nevada representative for AT Cares.
I'm Dan Barber. I'm one of the athletic trainers up in Northwest Indiana with Community Hospital, outpatient rehabilitation clinic in the morning, and Hebron High School in the afternoons. Well, maybe.
TBD. And I'm Eli Kassab. I am currently an athletic trainer at Dixie State University in St. George, Utah. And I also work with, do contract work for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes as well in Vegas and LA area.
Do any of you have any sports practices, competitions, rehab programs, anything?
Negativo. No, we're so school is still scheduled to go on Monday, because I teach at SHAP as well. So we're planning on going to school as of 2:04 on March 15th, 2020. But yeah, we have cut out all out of state, out of district travel. All sports and activities are a no-go right now, but we can pack a classroom with 40 kids and expect them to learn something Monday morning at 7:05.
My school's closed.
Yeah, our university just announced that starting Monday, everything's online, nothing's in class. We shut down the weight room, the training room, all spring sports. I'm sure nationwide, it's all canceled. We're going to reopen in a week and a half and kind of figure out what we're going to do from there. But it's a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our online educations went live. Well, it's going live technically Monday. We were in school on Friday. So we're all online for education stuff. All sports are canceled, and the tentative return date is April 13th, but that's very, very loosely tentative at this point. So,
yeah, there's no classes at my high school. They're closed until April. And as of Friday afternoon, the athletic director and the superintendent were still talking if they wanted to allow practices and such. So I should find out tomorrow. Now, do we have any concerns? I don't, but do either of y'all have concerns that this might affect your paychecks and how you pay bills and stuff?
I'll go first. Yeah, so teaching, I'm not super concerned about because that's a salaried position. It's through the school district. As long as people, I'm assuming, still pay their taxes, then we should still be getting a paycheck. But after school, I'm per diem. So if I don't work, I don't get paid. Referees, they probably are getting their butt kicked right now. My dad is a sports photographer in Dallas. And if there's no events going on, he also doesn't get paid. Thankfully his wife, is a teacher. So I'm assuming, still getting paid. But if schools aren't in, he also substitutes, he doesn't get paid if he doesn't work. It's probably taking somewhere between a $1,500 to $2,000 chunk out of my monthly pay until we come back in sports. My husband's a financial advisor, so he is still getting paid because he can still work from home. But yeah, it's a little bit tighter over here in the Backhoffen household, but it's not going to be as bad because as a teacher, I still get paid, but most of the other athletic trainers in our area, like if they don't work, they don't get paid. If they, they're not in their stipend anymore at UNLV, like I said something about a text. I was like, if you need to shower, or if you need some toilet paper, or if you need somewhere like a meal, like come over, because we're not paying rents, we're paying mortgage, so the likelihood of them kicking us out is lower. But it's frustrating and scary for a lot of ATs, at least in the Vegas area.
Eli?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Get after it.
yeah, so I'm a salary position, obviously being contracted at the high school. I'm not super worried, at least at this point in time. I can obviously pick up some more hours theoretically in my outpatient rehabilitation clinic. That's probably what's going to happen. I've got a conference call meeting on Monday to figure out for sure what we're going to do with that. But I'm very fortunate in my position, so I'm not extremely worried. Others in our system, I think, are a little bit more worried, and I'm worried for them, especially those who are PRN part-time that don't have a clinical site per se from the hospital setting goes. So we'll just have to roll with punches and see what happens. But as of right now, I personally feel pretty confident and pretty comfortable with what's going to probably end up happening. But definitely concerned about my other colleagues.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar position. Luckily through here where I'm at, we're on the medical model, so we're hired through the hospital, and so we're fairly secure with our paychecks, just because it is tied through the hospital, not the university. But I also have friends, like a lot of them in the California area, because that's where I grew up, that I know are basically have been PRN for a number of years, and that's their sole income. And I know they're kind of scrambling right now to kind of figure out, how they're, going to find work, because they've been, some of them have been doing PRN work for, 3 or 4 years. And it's just worked out well for them, and they kind of continue to do it. So I know they're kind of struggling. And I was almost in that same boat this year. I was this close to just being like, you know what? I just want to do PRN work this year. And thankfully I didn't go that path, because then this would have, made it a lot more difficult. So I'm kind of with you guys on that one. I really feel for the PRN per diem ATs out there for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate your guys' feedback on that, because I'm seeing a lot of athletic trainers on Twitter with those types of concerns, which is a concern I never would have thought of because I'm salaried, and I just assumed a lot more athletic trainers were salaried, and I guess that's not the deal. So let's go from negative to positive, and what do we plan on doing to fill in all this free time we now have?
Video games. I play a ton of video games. Like when I got the message from like on the Twitter, I was like, I had to get off of, because I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, or replaying through Fallout 4, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to get my butt off the couch now and be somewhat professional.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, are you the one who's the Twitch streamer? Yeah.
No, that was Aaron. That was Aaron.
Too.
I did stream with Aaron though, because I'm a total nerd. I've been playing video games since like PC video games, headset, whole shebang. Like I'm in a group text with a bunch of friends of mine, and we're like literally texting each other like, hey, we're jumping online, and we play, like I play all kinds of video games, but I have Twitch streamed with Aaron before playing Fortnite. So okay. I'm all about that life.
We need to get Aaron back on here. He hasn't been on here in a couple of weeks.
Dang, he's slacking, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been.
If anybody was wondering.
Aaron, he's got a Twitch channel up, so I've been just filling my time up with that, and I'm also I have a side passion for all things finance and investing related. So using my free time to just dig into more in the stock market type stuff. So I've been in that for a number of years now, and just using my downtime to spend more time researching and studying, and I don't know, total nerd. That's fun for me for some odd reason.
Hey Eli, I put on my Twitter today, how much Disney Plus do I need to watch to kickstart their stock, because they've just been dying, man.
I know that was a big hype with that Disney. Once Disney Plus is coming out, they're kind of hyping up the stock, and it just hasn't hasn't quite
And
done as well as they
it happened
wanted.
for a few months, and with the Avengers
Mhm.
and Captain
Yeah.
Marvel and Spider-Man, and then this stupid virus gone and killed their stock. And I love Disney. What about you, Dan? What are you doing in your free time?
Well, I'm finishing up my DAT, which is an online program anyway. So I've just been doing homework, really. um, yeah, so just doing that, and I did like a whole like movie marathon of just random stuff just to catch up on that. I was like, oh yeah, I totally meant to watch that. Yeah, here we go.
Now,
Yeah.
do the three of you feel like you have some degree of identity outside of athletic training?
Oh gosh, that was a deep question. I wasn't ready for that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, no, like so for me. I mean, I do now. That wasn't always the case for me personally. I was very much like got 100% consumed in athletic training and the profession, and have devoted a lot of hours, like most of us have. But it probably wasn't up until last year and this year where I've actually been able to kind of find a balance in between the two. And so I think for me, it's kind of been a more recent thing for me that's kind of was lost kind of in the early stages of my athletic training career.
Yeah, I think teaching has probably helped me with that. Like, I feel like I kind of create like two personas, like the athletic trainer, Brittany, and then like, the teacher, Mrs. Backoften. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the nerdier, I guess, side of me. Like, when I come home, I like to game, and yeah, I think so. I think I have a pretty solid, well-rounded sort of persona.
Yeah, I was like Eli. The first couple of years of my career, I was pretty much all athletic training all the time. Then I really started getting close to burnout, so I really started kind of focusing more on kind of distancing myself a little bit. So now I'm to the point where basically when I'm not at work, I don't really consider myself an athletic trainer. I pursue other interests, I pursue other hobbies. Most of my close friends are not even medical at all, and I mean, it's kind of just randomly how that happened, but it kind of works out in a way so that we have a lot of other things that we talk about. I mean, obviously, just because of the nature of the situation, obviously, we're talking more about this now. But outside of a pandemic, we don't really talk much about healthcare in general, unless there's something that we need to talk about with one of us as just close personal friendships. So yeah, I mean, obviously, an athletic training is a big part of who I am, but it doesn't consume my whole being. I still have an identity outside of that, and I think that's important for everybody to kind of maintain that.
Yeah, and I only asked that question because, like the previous question I asked, I'm seeing a lot of athletic trainers on Twitter. What do I do now? I have all this time. I'm not used to it. All I know is athletic training. I'm not with my kids. And I think this is going to be almost like a blessing in disguise where it's going to allow these people to take a step back and invest into themselves and see who they are outside of athletic training and see what other passions they like and hobbies that they used to do that they can't do anymore. So I think out of this negative is going to come a real positive. But I'm open the floor to you three. Is there any thoughts, questions you guys have, or things are going on in athletic training or in the world besides not being able to buy groceries because all the stores are sold out?
No, it's crazy. No, but it's funny that you just mentioned that. I just wanted to that's literally what was going through my head kind of as we were answering these questions was exactly what you just said. I think this is going to be a really good thing for a lot of athletic trainers to go through, because then you kind of run in that situation like, what do I do now? There's play video games all the time, or like, what else do I do outside of that? And it's a good time to kind of explore, things that you've been interested in and see, where your other passions lie. For me, I people are like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, there's a lot of other things that I can do because I have just other interests, so I can always kind of keep myself occupied. So I think it'll be really good for people to kind of have this sort of like maybe a bit of a break, assuming that they all kind of take advantage of it and implement some sort of self-reflection into this period, to kind of look at other areas of interests and things.
I want to kind of piggyback off of what we can do, with the self-reflection part of it. I hope especially with the ones of us that are per diem, that we can kind of utilize this to kind of say like, hey, like, this is really why we should be salaried. This is really why, maybe we should reevaluate that contract and say like, is per diem really the best thing for us? Do you have a plan, outside of, coming to work like every single day and getting paid hourly? Like, I really hope that this could be like a way to kind of realize and kind of help legitimize us saying like, hey, this is one reason you're going to lose a lot of employees if, maybe you don't reevaluate our pay structure.
Yeah, I think and especially like for me, like again, I mentioned earlier, like I have a passion for all things finance related. And so I do help a lot of friends and family out with their, personal finances and their money management stuff. So that just kind of made me think about, hopefully, I know the general population isn't necessarily the most, I guess, do the smartest things with their money. And I know, like your husband being a financial advisor, I'm sure you guys have plans in place, but a lot of people don't. I know I definitely didn't when I was younger. So hopefully that this can kind of, for those people that are per diem or not, hopefully it can make them realize that, financially on the finance side of things to really make sure they've got some sort of backup emergency savings kind of set aside for kind of, such a thing. I think it gets so good for so long and you kind of get in a routine that you're like, that's going to stay like that forever. And you don't plan for anything that kind of disrupts that routine and plan for contingencies. So hopefully.
I think it might also be a good time for, hopefully maybe a conversation to happen where more athletic trainers are maybe not welcome in the ER, but maybe we have a conversation about like, if something like this were to happen again, like how can we be, useful or like beneficial to a hospital? That was a kind of a conversation that happened in Nevada after the October 1 shooting at Mandalay Bay, right? Like we kind of saw these things happen and we were like, we have skills where we can, evaluate some of these injuries that are coming into the ER. Like, why can't we be there to help? Why couldn't we be on some sort of like, 911, like, hey, we need all hands on deck sort of call and have, us all go to, the couple local hospitals out here. I think that would be helpful for some of these like nurses and, physicians that are in the ER too, like saying like, hey, like, you don't have to take everybody's blood pressure or, vitals or whatever it might be. Like, we can take some of that brunt. So then maybe, we can put you in a more useful spot to do IVs or, whatever it might be. I think that could hopefully maybe be another conversation that we could start after this.
Yeah. I know we got an email, like, again, we worked through the hospital and we got like a big old email with like a list of just like kind of what you were saying, just a list of opportunities, like, the physician's office, the clinic, the PT clinic, like in like basically a list of like all the different areas we can kind of help out with if we didn't have, anything to do at the university. And so like, I totally agree with you on that one. I think that would be, that'd be huge to kind of find a way to, integrate the two. Cause I know like we just barely got a giant long email with all kinds of options in there to kind of help out and at least be part of the team and get to know people and build relationships and whatnot.
What about you, Dan? Got anything? What's on Dan's mind?
There's a lot of things on my mind, most of which is not relevant to anything really. Yeah, I think, speaking about some of the things that we kind of see on Twitter and, looking at kind of the bigger picture things and also looking at some of the positives, as much as it frustrating is even for, let's take athletic training out of it, just looking at athletics in general from coaches and players standpoint, athletics has become such a huge part of our lives and our worlds here. I think this is really kind of a good time to kind of get a grasp and kind of think, okay, So we have so many of these coaches, so many athletes, their worlds are just, shattered and, don't know what to do with themselves. And I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of grow and really kind of get back to, I think about my days growing up, and I was not an athlete really at all. I played soccer when I was in elementary school, but we were kind of ones that, like, yes, sports are important, but it's in a framework of this bigger picture of developing, as a human being, and I think that's something that we can kind of take a role, because most people, even if you're a professional athlete, at some point, sports is going to pretty much kind of end for you in some way, shape, or form. It might take a different spin depending on if you decide to go into coaching or whatnot. But, I think this will kind of frame like how we kind of view sports as a whole in the grand scheme of life. And so I just kind of thinking about, how are ways that we can kind of help instill that into people that, there's a world beyond basketball, there's a world beyond football, and how do we kind of help the athletes kind of understand that and grasp that, so that if there is a sudden change, whether it's due to catastrophic injury or whatnot, how do we continue to help them as just a human being and as a human person deal with that kind of situation.
It's true, and just something that made me think. It got me thinking. It's interesting you bring up that point. I only say this because for me, in the world of athletics, I worked in football for a lot of years, and that was something that, like, athletics, like, usually, like, it trumps everything that you have going on in life. Like, it's like it literally nothing ever gets in the way. And so this is the first time I've seen, like, I'm sure most people in my life, where there's something that can cause, a halt or a stop to the world of athletics. I've never seen that before. I couldn't have fathomed it, like, early on in my career, just seeing, it's so, like, when there's games, like that's it. Like, they don't get moved. They don't, I mean, sometimes they get moved, outdoor games. But anyway, but yeah, it is interesting, especially for athletes, like you were saying, to go through this, because I know a lot of guys, whether they're in, from professional setting down, it all affects them differently. Like college athletes who are in their senior year trying to enter the draft, whether they're professional athletes, making a living and, not getting their paychecks, their performance bonuses and whatnot. Like, now it's trying to, now it's kind of sort of going to force people to kind of adjust and figure out what to do. And you hope that, all the athletes at various levels, it's going to affect them all pretty drastically. And, you hope that they can find a way to sort of manage around it, rather than, a lot of them are so just tunnel vision focused, like, this is it, this is my whole life. And so, hopefully they can kind of figure out, again, I guess, kind of the self-identity thing we were talking about earlier, with the athletes.
You know what I hope comes out of this? Take a guess. I'll tell you. Don't worry. I hope that through this adversity, this challenge, is that people will embrace it, and they'll be able to grow, and they'll be able to evolve into the next step of their life, instead of just staying stagnant and staying who they've always been. And a part of that is I'm hoping that athletic trainers all over the place will be more willing to come together and help out other medical providers, instead of a lot of the negativity we see on the social medias, because we're all struggling. We all have these barriers, and hopefully that can take the blinders off of some people, just to be kinder and to be more open to helping others besides just their athletes.
I'm with you on that one. Definitely, like, spreading more, just, kind of positivity, more good vibes. And there's so much negativity, especially on Twitter. I haven't been active on Twitter for a very long time, but kind of in the recent months. And yeah, there's a lot of it on social. So I'm kind of with you on that one. I think it's just, have a positive perspective, kind of, be kind and help each other out and treat others the way you want to be treated. I say that all the time.
It's interesting because I feel like at least on my social medias right now, it's not so much of the athletic trainers that are going to town at everybody. Right now it's like all the teachers in our district, because I should say the majority of the teachers in the district are pretty upset that our superintendent hasn't shut down our schools yet. And so there's a lot of like name calling and all that kind of stuff. So I really hope that the city of Las Vegas and CCSD and just kind of our whole school educational infrastructure just really evaluates like how we handle these things, because it's kind of like the biggest way I can equate it is, if you're you're doing CPR and you check the scene, you make sure it's safe, and your victim, your students are kind of freaking out, and then you instead of pointing and saying like you call 911 and you grab the AED, everyone's like, okay, well, who's shutting down the schools? Is it the governor? Is it the superintendent? I don't know. And so it's kind of like, if you don't point, like the job will not get done. So it's interesting. It's an interesting social media time.
Any other thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns?
No? I got nothing, man. No, I mean, we kind of ran into a similar thing. Everyone was like, up until a few days ago, it was like no one was making any decisions. Athletics director, coaches and stuff. Everyone was just kind of like, I don't know what to do. We were supposed to be flying out of Vegas, and we get down halfway to Vegas, and we find out we turn back around and find out everything's canceled. And then I later find out that everything, like, they knew ahead of time, but no one was giving a for sure answer, and so we just kept going because people were afraid to make a call.
Do you think it's a delayed response just because it's like an unprecedented thing, or like, how can we live in a world without sports? Or do you think it's just delayed response for something else?
It's probably a little bit of both, right? I mean, at least, at the CCSD level, there's so many moving pieces, right? I mean, there's, 30 some odd high schools. I mean, we're like one of the biggest districts, like school districts in the country, right? So if you shut us down, there's a lot of dominoes then that fall after that. Some kids don't eat breakfast or lunch, right? Then parents got to find childcare, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and I can understand the gravity of the decision that has to be made, but at the same time, I mean, you're talking about like preventing illness spreading very, very quickly, and it would be a lot of people to get sick like really, really soon. And but then again, it's like, okay, well, they want us to like clean our classrooms, so they just supply us all with like the spray, and then they say one thing and then they do another, right? Like, it's, oh, the schools are going to get deep cleaned over the weekend, and it's like, okay, well, if a kid my first period coughs on their desk, like, it's not going to matter if we got it deep cleaned or not, right? So I don't know, that it's just interesting. Like, attendance has been ridiculous. Kids aren't focused in class. It's just, it's a, and it puts a lot of people out of work. But at the same time, again, I think it's just the gravity of the decision to be made. But, at some point, you got to listen to the healthcare professionals. If the CDC says, hey, you guys probably should close it down, or if, Southern Nevada Health District says, hey, you guys should probably be closing this down, like, I think we're all a little frustrated that, we're not listening to people who have these medical degrees and, do this essentially for a living, right? And then the other issue that comes at it, and I don't know if this is special in the Vegas area, but there's a lot of special interests in this city, right? There's the casinos and, all the people that work for the casinos, and there's a lot of money put into the, putting into and coming out of the casinos. So, they kind of lean on a little bit of everything, and, just all the uncertainty that is kind of happening on social media. It's frustrating, especially when, your superintendent just doesn't say like, hey, let's pull the plug. So like you said, I hope that we can reevaluate and say like, all right, how do we make this better the next time this happens, if this ever does happen again?
Yeah, I think the big thing is everyone's just because, I mean, at least in most of our lifetimes, we've never been down this road before. I mean, I'm sure some of our, parents and grandparents with some of the big flus and stuff back in the past um, went through it, but most of us haven't. So I think everybody's just, well, we don't really have a policy for how to shut everything down. So it's kind of like when you have a situation where you don't have an EAP in place and you haven't practiced it. Well, whose job is it to
Mm-hmm.
pull the plug and make the decision? I think from the athletic side, at least for us in Indiana, I think we were like, well, we're waiting for the HSA to come and say something. The IHA was like, it should be really kind of up to you guys in your local district on what's going on. I mean, you might have an issue with this on the north side of the state, but at the south side of the state, it's completely fine. They can still do their thing. And so I think there's just, because it was so unprecedented, we didn't really have a policy in place for how to handle it. And I think the one positive then about this is, well, now we see, okay, what happened, what went well, what didn't go well. All right, well, now let's create a policy for it, and let's go from there.
And then real quick, I know we got less than a minute. Okay, perfect. 2 minutes. I'll make it quick. I'm basically on the same boat. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's just, unprecedented. Like no one's been here before. So I think trying to make these decisions while trying to keep in mind of all like the basically the ramifications of our decisions, how that is going to affect the athletes, the programs, and everything else. I think ultimately you make a decision. And the most important, prioritize your decisions and then kind of see what happens. Unfortunately, so we've never been through this before. We don't have a protocol set up for it. So, you kind of make the decisions as best you can. And then there are going to be, some long lasting, issues or ramifications from it. But it's just one of those things that kind of happens with something so unique.
All right, we got 1 minute, and I'm gonna wrap it up with a quote from a great movie. You guys ready for this?
Yes.
This is from The Dark Knight. This is Harvey Dent, and that is, "The night is darkest before the dawn." So we're in, troubling times, and it's a unique time and challenging, but it's gonna get better. Just hang in there, be kind, and help people out.
Yes.
And I
Agreed.
appreciate everyone for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Thomas. Nice meeting you
Have a
guys.
great Sunday.
Seeing you
You
guys.
too. Take care.